Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Selling My Business podcast. This is your host, August. Today, my guest is Lyndsey Davino. Lyndsey is a certified business intermediary based in Las Vegas with First Choice Business Brokers. Prior to being a business broker, Lyndsey was a commercial property manager and leasing agent. She has become a trusted advisor for business owners for a variety of industries, and they've turned to her to provide straightforward advice on business valuations, preparing their business for a successful sale, and coming up with creative solutions to get a transaction closed. So, Lyndsey, tell me a little bit more about your background and what got you to become a business broker.
Yeah, well, first, thank you so much for inviting me to be here. I appreciate that. Like you had said, I was a commercial property manager for many years before I became a business broker. And I just had different scenarios come up over the years where I thought that I could make a really smooth transition into working with business owners instead of on the property management side, very 24/7 intensive job to helping small business owners, expand their business or sell their business, no matter what their needs were. I just felt that the lease was oftentimes an afterthought. And when I was dealing with those who were either self-representing themselves in the transaction or even working with other business brokers, I saw that there could be a need that could be filled in, and I stepped into that role. Yeah.
So, how long have you been a business broker?
So I was in commercial property management. I got into that in 2013, and then 2020 I switched over into business brokerage, doing it full time.
Yeah, and awesome. How has that been since it's been? Usually, I know when I talk to some new business brokers, it's a little bit of a rough start, trying to figure out where they're going to get their first transaction. How was it for you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, rough wouldn't be the word that I would use. It was a learning curve, from going from a salary position and, you're working for a company and they hand you your clients basically, to going out and looking for clients yourself. It definitely was a bit of a learning curve, but because of the relationships I built as a property manager and with those in the real estate community here in Southern Nevada, I felt that it was a pretty good transition. My first year was a struggle, like anyone who's, essentially I am in sales as a business broker, from going through that in 2020. And I'd say in 2022, I just kind of took off from there. And 2023 was a great year, and I'm looking forward to what 24 brings.
Awesome. Cool. So you've obviously worked with a lot of business owners. One of the common questions I ask on this podcast is, what are some common mistakes you see business owners make? So what mistakes do you see business owners make usually when it comes down to getting their business sold or getting themselves prepared to sell?
Well, the first thing is I personally, I feel that there's just way too many business owners that wait until when they want to sell to start having a conversation with a business broker. I personally feel that you should have the same mindset of whether you want to sell or whether you want to grow. You should still always have growth in the back of your mind. And I do get a fair amount of people that come to me when they're kind of at the end of their rope. Either they're burned out or, hey, I want to retire this year and I need to get this money from the business sale in order to move on to my retirement plans. And it's oftentimes really quite too late to make any adjustments. I think some business owners don't get with a good bookkeeper or CPA early enough in the game. It's almost like it started as a hobby and it becomes something bigger, and then having to go back and redo your finances and kind of rebuild your books so that you want to sell, and scrambling to do that at the end can be an unnecessary stress. So kind of putting financial information on the back burner, not getting in contact with a business broker early enough, and then also not focusing on running the business so much as a lot of folks are just focused on being in the business. They're almost like an employee of their own business. They're just so involved in the day to day instead of kind of taking a step back and getting a bird's eye view of the business and seeing, how I need to run this in order for it to be an enticing business for a third party to purchase down the line. I think is an important thing to look at.
Got it. So So that's something I hear quite often with that brokers say that business owners are basically when they want to talk about selling a business, it's too late. That's what I've heard consistently from brokers. But what life circumstances usually make people want to sell their business? Is it ultimately just wanting to retire, or a lot of times is it health related where now they need to sell a business and they're in that situation where they never prepared for it?
Retirement would be, in all honesty, it's kind of the ideal thing that we as business brokers want to see, especially when someone is of a normal retirement age, and instead of being someone in their 40s and saying, I'm ready to retire, it makes a lot of buyers go, why is that? So why do you want to retire now? Retirement, health conditions, um, uh, being in Southern Nevada, it's a very transient area. People come in here to Las Vegas and then they leave and go back to maybe where they're from. So moving out of state is not an unusual reason to want to sell, but burnout is a real reason to sell. Especially when someone has been working in the business heavily, they just don't want to continue doing that. Wanting to get into a new industry. Maybe they see something coming down the pike and some changes in their industry that they're not comfortable with, but maybe another buyer is. All of these are viable reasons to want to sell. New family, maybe someone is having a child and they want to spend more time with their family instead of being in a business, and they can afford to let that other income go. All reasons to sell. I've gotten some situations where someone has actually already passed away and we had to go ahead and sell the business. So all sorts of life events can bring it about.
So for the examples of I need to sell my business today or want to sell my business today, what's more of like the realistic time frame of the business actually getting sold?
It really depends on the business. It depends on how the business is doing financially. It's how the business is doing operationally. It makes a ginormous difference. If someone wants to hold me to the fire and say, tell me how long it'll take, I'll give you a range of 3 to 6 months. But I mean, I've had businesses take longer, and I've had businesses go off the market within a week of being up. And it really comes down to how the owner has been running the business and how the business is doing financially.
Okay. And do you see that it's if a business, let's say, never quite got to where they were pre-COVID, is it a little bit harder to sell those types of businesses because they've been a little bit on the down, like kind of going down in revenue over the past few years?
So you saying they did well before COVID and then have gone down and not recuperated? I mean,
Yeah.
any business that is trending downwards, it makes a buyer ask why, and that could just be because the owner is their heart isn't in it anymore. Maybe they're not taking advantage of some marketing and networking opportunities that are out there, and other people in their industry are. But then that's a business that's trending downwards, and the asking price should reflect that, and you can expect that the buyer is going to make an offer reflective of that. Just because it's going downward doesn't mean it's not a sellable business, but you just have to hit that right buyer that can see and what they feel like they've got the skill set, or who they know has a skill set that can bring that business back to where it needs to be.
So I'm going to throw kind of a question out there. So let's say I'm a business owner and, I want to sell. I'm not 100% committed in selling, but I want to sell and I want to just like throw up my business on Biz Buy Sell and see what happens. Mm-hmm. How does that usually go? And what's the differences between I just threw my business up on Biz Buy Sell to see what happens versus I reached out to a broker and had them more professionally advertise it? What's the main differences?
Well, Biz Buy Sell is one site that's out there. We take advantage of a couple of different channels that are available to us. We also have buyers who have contacted us for other businesses that maybe weren't a good fit, or maybe they're a buyer that ended up buying something through us and want to buy more things. You have that at your disposal when you're working with a broker. I'm with a brokerage, and we have quite a few agents in our office. So when I have a listing, other agents in our office are also looking at the buyers that they've worked with as well to see who could be a good fit. So there's something to be said about the numbers that are there. We put together professional marketing packets. We know the right questions to ask, and we know what's going to entice a buyer to click on that button and say, inquire for more. I've seen for sale by owner listings up on Biz by Sell, and without even looking at who's listing it, you can usually tell there's key sections that might be left blank. And when you're completing the ad, not to mention that how are you going to do an NDA? Confidentiality might be important to you as an owner. Maybe it's not, but for many owners it is. If you're replying from Bob Smith or some kind of name like that, and someone starts Googling and says, oh, this is the pizza place that they're selling, or this is the cleaning company that they're selling, having that other party in between you puts just another layer of protection for you and your business. Yeah. So that's just a couple of reasons why I could probably keep going. But,
yeah. No, it's just that's good information, because the easiest way to go about seeing if you could sell your business is just putting it up on a site like that and seeing what happens.
Yeah.
But
how do you know if you're priced right? How do you know any of that? So
yeah. But then you fall into those where you don't even know if you even wrote the right information into the profile. So great information. What other advice do you have for business owners on either getting the business set up for success or to close successfully?
I sound like I'm beating a dead horse here, but talk to a business broker. At some point, but preferably 3 to 5 years before you want to sell, and just have a conversation about what that process looks like. I happily do complimentary analysis of people's businesses and say, if we were to list today, this is where I'd be suggesting that we put you on at the market for. And you can take that information and go to your financial planner and start to figure out, what do I need to do in order to sell? How much money do I need to be taking home after I sell it in order for me to actually retire in a lifestyle that I'm comfortable with? So, and I could just keep going down that path of all these different steps that you can take to help ensure yourself success in sale. A lot of businesses that list on the market don't end up selling, and some of those businesses might have had a different outcome if you'd had that conversation sooner. So I'm always happy to talk to people wherever stage they are, whether they're a brand new business owner or they've been in business for 10 years. Just the sooner the better to have that conversation.
So tell us more about where your office is located and what types of businesses do you work with?
Yes. So First Choice is located here in Las Vegas. We actually have offices all across the country, but this is our flagship location here, run by Jeff and Linda Nyman, founders of First Choice. We list all types of businesses. Any sort of industry. Myself, I do a lot with food and beverage. I've sold quite a few cleaning businesses, security companies, home service businesses. I can keep going. So I'm industry agnostic. So if there's a business owner that's out there that's, I want to have a conversation with a First Choice agent. If I know that there's someone in the office that is like, oh, actually, I want to bring them in on this, I definitely will get them involved. Mm-hmm.
So, Lyndsey, how can they reach you? If someone's interested in listening to this, they're in the market, in your market, how can they reach you to have a conversation with you? Through
Absolutely.
email?
Yeah. I would say email. Email is best. My name is spelled a little uniquely. It's LYNDSEY at fcbb.com, and that FCBB is First Choice Business Brokers. So Lyndsey at fcbb.com, or you can send me a text at 702-772-7542.
Cool. Awesome, Lyndsey. Great advice for everybody out there that's listening. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to jump on the podcast real fast to give some good advice. And we appreciate everyone that's listened in. And if you guys need any help with selling your business, you can reach out to Lyndsey, or you can reach out to us and we'll get you connected to a broker in your local market. Thanks again, Lyndsey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. All right, that's it. So, done.
My stupid earbud.